federal government is in its second day of shutdown. According to the Congressional Budget Office, in this time, about 750,000 federal employees are furloughed each day, while millions classified as essential continue to work without pay. Critics argue the economic impact is already severe. A White House memo warns of a $15 billion loss in GDP for every week the shutdown continues. Credit ratings agencies have issued warnings about U.S. debt outlook, and reports show states preparing for health insurance spikes if federal payments are interrupted. But the shutdown may prove something else, that parts of the federal bureaucracy can be paused without paralyzing daily life. Conservative policy advocates have long argued that DOGE reforms designed to cut staff, contracts, and programs are needed to force government efficiency. The shutdown may serve as a live demonstration of how a leaner federal footprint might function. Senator Tommy Tuberville made this very argument on the War Room.
This is a bloated government, Steve. We cannot continue down this same path. We've got way too many people that are in position, that have been here too long, and you can't fire them. I don't know how they get in a position where if you don't do your job or you're not adequate or you're not needed anymore, you can just sit there and remain in a role and take the taxpayers' money. I don't believe in that. So this would be a great opportunity.
The divide is sharp. Is this shutdown a temporary crisis, or is it an unintended cleanup that shows Washington can operate with less? Remember, President Trump is meeting with his budget director, Russ Vought, and this is also causing quite a stir. We're joined now by economist Darren Nelson. Darren, your thoughts on the shutdown? Are you on the it's good for the economy or it's bad for the economy train?
I'm on the it's good for the economy, and it's going to be particularly good in the medium to longer term. As you mentioned, Russ Vought is he's not going to let this crisis go to waste. So he's going to take advantage of it. As you know, there's plenty of news reports about this. I think your report mentioned something like 700,000. There's some numbers are as high as 900,000 or more that they may be able to get rid of permanently through this process.
Wow.
Through the RIF process. And ultimately, the less bureaucrats, the better.
Well, in terms of the short term, there were lots of doom and gloom. What is the response to that? Are there going to be kind of short-term harms that are noticeable in our everyday life?
Look, I think there will be, in terms of, like, obviously, apparently the military is not getting paid right now and that sort of thing. This thing probably won't last that long. I don't think it will last as long as the previous one did, which, 30-odd days. In terms of, like, it will impact potentially GDP figures, because GDP figures, sadly, include government. So it's almost like a double counting, because, government extracts its resources from the economy through taxes, essentially.
Interesting. I didn't realize we did that.
Yeah. There was a debate back in the 1930s, when they thought about when they first came up with GDP type statistics, what should be in, what should be out. Unfortunately, the people who argued against including government in that statistic lost out.
Was that also the same debate that included this odd move where we don't count rent and food in some of the inflation numbers, or is that a different conversation?
Oh, that's a different.
That reminds me of it.
Yeah, at least they were thinking through the concept in the 1930s. No, this is kind of like. I don't know the whole ins and outs why it's a CPI-related thing where they extract stuff out,
right.
Which is really absurd when they start taking out the most important things that people kind of see on a daily basis. Right. But you're right, it's a little bit of a separate argument. But so ultimately, like I said, the interesting thing about this is cutting spending. If you get rid of, say, 900,000 something bureaucrats, and they'll certainly choose the ones who are, if you like, non-essential, this will not just be their salaries off the books. And federal bureaucrats, they get paid far more than any state or local ones. In fact,
yes.
Having worked around the world, they get paid a lot more than any of the other English-speaking countries as well. So these are very well-heeled people. So, even if it's, on average, you could be talking 100 grand each. But that's actually nothing compared to, if you like, there's kind of a bureaucrat iceberg of spending. So like the top 10% of the bureaucrats you can kind of see, they almost account for another kind of 90% of spending that they generate because, they're there to kind of like increase regulations, seek more funding, all this. So they actually end up creating a lot more spending than just their salaries. So this will be huge if they can get rid of, large numbers.
So does it look like the aftermath of this shutdown could result in some more permanent changes than shutdowns that we've witnessed in past?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's why if you like OMB and others are kind of licking their chops, because, they can do a lot of stuff that Doge can't actually do at this stage.
Like what?
Well, Doge has kind of, it's a little bit different thing. OMB is an official part of the government.
Right.
It was always there. It has budget responsibility. Doge was kind of, took on there was some entity that had really nothing to do with that sort of thing that they kind of legally got in there. So Doge really, as I understand it, they only can recommend stuff. They don't really
it's an advisory committee.
They're advisory, and their big report's going to come out next year, and that'll be really important. And that will be not just for the administration, but for Congress too, right? This is, their plan, to get rid of. So OMB has some real teeth, particularly in a shutdown, to do something, including, getting rid of possibly up to, like 900,000 bureaucrats. And I believe in the past, it was interesting to see that the best that's been done, 1.3 million was Harry Truman, but that was basically, military personnel.
1.3.
But that was the end of World War II.
Yes.
So it wasn't like getting rid of bureaucrats, right? It was just basically going back to, a lot of military people going back to civilian life. So the best one was Bill Clinton at 338,000. So that was pretty good. Yeah. And no one else is even close to that in history. Well, Eisenhower got 201,000, but I think some of that was also military downsizing from World War II and Korea.
Yeah.
So, Clinton's was, a civilian sort of, a lot of bureaucrats, basically.
Right.
So that's huge, and this could be like 3 times that.
Right.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I love the historical context, and I did not realize we had almost, a third, basically, of the numbers we're talking about now under Clinton. But, Clinton's making a real comeback. You're seeing all these clips from Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton talking about their former immigration policies and positions, and it's all coming around.
Tough on crime and all that.
Tough on crime. So it'll be interesting to see what other sound bites emerge in the processes of this shutdown. Darren Nelson, a pleasure as always. Thanks for putting all that in context for us.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up, Trump is one of a kind, but his movement cannot end with him. So who comes next? Dr. Theodore Roosevelt Malloch joins us next. We'll be right back.